1840, one man transformed travel in Britain. His name was George Bradshaw, and his railway guides inspired the Victorians to take to the tracks. Stop by stop, he told them where to travel, what to see, and where to stay. Now, 170 years later, I'm making 4 long journeys across the length and breadth of the country to see what remains of Bradshaw's Britain. I'm now more than halfway through my journey from Liverpool to Scarborough, and today I'm moving from west to east across the mighty county of Yorkshire. And I'm hoping that my battered 150-year-old copy of Bradshaw's handbook will again prove a useful guide not only to the area's Victorian history, but even to its present day. Today, I'll be discovering how the railways made Hull one of the biggest whitefish ports in the world.
The railways make fish an article of cheap mass consumption. They create the trawling industry, and it grows phenomenally.
I'll be searching for licorice in Pontefract. I'm guessing that is a licorice plant.
This is a licorice plant. It's a Mediterranean plant. It came from Spain originally. That's why in Pontefract we gave it the nickname a stick of Spanish.
And I'll be finding out why cod might soon be off the menu.
We're starting to see a lot more warm water species that we normally associate with the Mediterranean.
All this week, I'm travelling across the country. Having started in Liverpool, I passed through Manchester and the West Yorkshire moors. Now I'll turn south, along the Humber estuary, and finally up the coast to Scarborough. Today, I'm leaving York for Pontefract. I'll visit Hull and the coastal resort of Bridlington. And this is my first stop. Bradshaw's guide describes mid-19th century Pontefract as a large town of 11,000 people. At the castle, it tells me, Richard II was put to death, and it was the scene of several notable beheadings. But there's another thing that Pontefract was famous for in Bradshaw's day. My reason for coming to Pontefract is an intriguing reference in my Bradshaw's guide to licorice cakes being made here and the root being grown in the fields around Ackworth. Some say it was monks who first grew licorice in Pontefract over 600 years ago. The soft, loamy soil around here was perfect for licorice's long roots. But I'm struggling to find any sign of licorice growing in these fields now. Hello.
Hello.
You got lots of licorice here?
Yeah.
Do they grow licorice around here?
They used to do years ago, but I don't know if they still do it. There used to be a farm, but I think they built some houses on them, so I don't really know for certain.
Hello, ladies. What do you think Pontefract is famous for now?
Pontefract licorice, yeah, but it's not as much now because all the fields have gone, you know, they don't grow it anymore. Which when I was a child, you know, there's sticks of licorice we used to chew and...
Close by?
Yeah.
The licorice fields of Bradshaw's day seem to be long gone. But one man, I'm told, has the last licorice bush in Pontefract. Tom Dixon, who's from a family of licorice growers.
Hello, Michael. How are you? Pleased to
Very
meet
well
you.
indeed. What a lovely house.
Well, my great-grandfather built it in 1810. He built it specially here because this was all the best licorice land in Pontefract, in fact, in the country. It's a Mediterranean plant. It came from Spain originally. That's why in Pontefract we gave it the nickname a stick of Spanish.
A stick of Spanish?
Yes, it's known all through Yorkshire and Pontefract as a stick of Spanish. Would you like to come in?
Thank you. Memorabilia galore.
Memorabilia. Right, these are sticks of licorice, Michael, that's just been dug up the other day, actually. Now, my great-grandfather used to send Queen Victoria a bunch of this once a month to Osborne House on the Isle of Wight. She used to chew it all the time. And we had a doctor here from Manchester, one of the eminent transplant surgeons in this country, and he says, your family killed Queen Victoria. And I said, why? He says, well, he says, she ate that much licorice that she lost all her teeth. It causes very high blood pressure, which she died of. So he says, your claim to fame is that your family killed Queen Victoria.
That's a terrible burden to carry through life.
I know, yeah.
But I suppose, considering that it causes diarrhoea, it would explain why she spent so long on the throne.
Good, very good. Never thought of that.
Tell me about this thing.
Well, there's a firm in Pontefract called Hillaby's. They got a phone call, I think it was in the late 30s. Could they make a pair of boots for Charlie Chaplin in the Gold Rush?
I remember it.
You remember it?
Yeah, I remember it. It's a very sad film and a very pathetic scene, isn't it?
He's absolutely down and out. He's nothing to eat, so he takes his boots off and he starts to eat his boots, and that's one of the remaining boots.
It's unbelievably realistic as a boot, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. I've been offered money for it by Charlie Chaplin collectors, but it's not for sale.
In Bradshaw's time, the Pontefract fields grew enough licorice to supply many local factories. When the railways arrived, it was transported all over the country and even overseas. But by the 1960s, all that had stopped.
That, Michael, is the last commercial crop growing just up the road from where we're stood now. And as you can see, the fields was full of it.
Absolutely full of it.
Right.
It became cheaper to import licorice from Spain, Italy and Turkey. But thankfully, Tom has his own local supply, which he's been nurturing for the last 10 years.
So am I.
I'm guessing that is a licorice plant.
This is a licorice plant, Michael.
Some smell.
Slight. Yes.
But what you're really interested in is the root.
Is that root, Michael? And those roots now, because this plant's been in about 10 to 12 years, those roots will go down at least 8 feet.
Wow.
Massive big root ball.
Right. So when this crop was harvested, the whole plant, including its root, was dug up.
The whole lot was dug up. There was men in the trenches and they used to dig it out. There was no machinery, there was nothing, it was all hand dug.
And so then, what would you do with it?
It would be brought here to this house where you've had a look, and it would be stored in the cellars till the market price was right. Quite a lot of it was shipped by rail down to Boots the chemist in Nottingham.
And Boots used it in what?
They used it in stomach medicines, cough medicines, chest medicines, any medicine that you can think of, licorice was used in it.
And that was just to give medicine a sweet taste, or was it medicinal as well?
No, it's medicinal. It's used in a lot of remedies. A surgeon in London actually uses the root or the thin strands of the root when he's doing a cancer operation or a gut operation, and he sews them up with licorice because it stimulates the stomach and it just dissolves and disappears.
Tom, I think you've been telling me some tall stories this afternoon.
I don't think so, Michael. Everything I tell you is perfectly true.
Pontefract's licorice factories have almost disappeared too. There are now just 2 left, including the Dunhill Haribo factory. Until recently, it was owned by Richard Godson's family.
My great-grandfather bought the company in 1919.
Your great-grandfather?
Yeah. My grandfather and my father both worked in the business as well.
How fantastic. Pontefract's licorice was originally made into medical lozenges. Then in the 1700s, George Dunhill added sugar and created a sweet called Pontefract cakes.
Here we've got a pan with all the ingredients needed to make Pontefract cakes.
But I'm not yet getting the distinctive smell of licorice.
When we further process the mass down the line with high temperatures, which will enhance the flavours and turn the mass from a brown colour to a black sweet.
The women who nipped and rolled the cakes were called Spanish thumpers and could make around 3,500 per hour. I imagine that your special recipe would be a very closely guarded secret.
Yeah, that's correct, Michael. Very closely guarded.
I won't press you on that one then.
Okay, then, let's go.
In 1994, the factory was sold to German manufacturer Haribo. It was keen to keep up the tradition of Pontefract cakes, and the factory now produces more licorice sweets than anywhere else in the UK. I admit I've never enjoyed licorice, but maybe a fresh Pontefract cake will make me change my mind. Actually, not really. It's just not my kind of thing, Richard. I'm very sorry.
Well, can't convert everybody, can we?
Well, I'm still not a fan. But it's good to see that licorice cake production is still in full flow in Pontefract. For the next leg of my journey, I'm travelling east from Pontefract, following the River Humber. Bradshaw describes the estuary here as 2 miles broad, widening to 5 or 6 at its mouth. There was no bridge in Bradshaw's time, just a ferry. The Humber Suspension Bridge, just outside the city of Hull, was built only in 1981. In Bradshaw's time, taking the train to spend time in Hull was an excursion filled with excitement. In 1840, the railway started selling discounted tickets on outings to glamorous places. These were the first monster excursions. A train left Leeds for Kingston upon Hull with 1,250 people aboard, and it was 40 coaches long. Today, my train has been reduced to just 2 carriages, but I'm sure that the attractions of Hull are undiminished. When you think of Hull, does it bring any other European city to mind? Well, according to Bradshaw's guide, Venice. Bradshaw writes of a Hull which, in its low situation, close to the banks and surrounded by the masts of the shipping in the docks, seems to rise like Venice from amidst the sea. I confess, of all the things that spring to mind whenever I think of Hull, Venice isn't one of them. But maybe Bradshaw's guide will make me look at the city afresh. And if the station's anything to go by, I look forward to it. Come and look at this. Isn't that magnificent? Isn't that a wonderful Victorian railway shed, complete with setting sun? It lifts the heart. In Bradshaw's time, Hull was expanding into a grand Victorian city. Its wealth came from whaling. At its peak in the 1820s, Hull had 60 ships, the largest fleet in Britain. But when the railway arrived in 1840, the whalers turned to fishing. Hull soon became one of the biggest whitefish ports in the world, as maritime historian Dr. Rob Robinson explains. That's certainly a very good place.
The railways make fish an article of cheap mass consumption. They create the trawling industry, and it grows phenomenally over the 30 or 40 years after the railways arrived in Hull. Before railways were here, it was very difficult to transport fish any distance over land. A large number of the textile towns had both man and woman at work in the family. They needed a cheap, fast food. Fish was the ideal answer. And the demand for fish grew so rapidly that more and more trawlers were built and worked out from Hull across the fishing grounds of the North Sea.
By the 1850s, 20 fish trains were leaving Hull every day. The quantity consumed in Manchester alone went up from 3 to 80 tonnes a week. The price of cod dropped by 3/4. I've seen photographs of the railway lines running along the dock pontoons alongside the warehouses, the trawlers coming right alongside the railway wagons.
Yeah, the railways came before the docks, or the fish docks, but of course the demand was such that specialist fish docks were created. And then when the railways came, they spread their way through the fish docks, and large fleets or large trains of wagons would be along on the dock in the morning waiting to be loaded with fish to take the early morning fish trains out, distributing fish across the country.
Now, my Bradshaw's guide talks about standing on I think probably a high position, looking out over the estuary of the Humber, and makes the comparison to Hull in its low position, rising from the water like Venice. What do you think of that comparison?
I think it's a good comparison. Hull itself is very close to the water, and it has a river on two sides. The other two sides at the time Bradshaw came here were a string of docks. They were almost like, water was like a pearl necklace around the city. And yeah, there's quite an interesting link between Hull and Venice in that sense.
I'm very grateful to you. Next time I won't go to the Grand Canal, I'll buy a ticket for here.
We'll get you a gondola.
Hull's trawler fleet travelled ever further north into icy Arctic water to keep up with the increasing demand for fish. It required a tough breed of trawlermen like skipper Ken Knox, who worked his way up from the bottommost rung.
This is where I started. I went from a school desk to this school.
Culture shock.
You had 3 buckets of potatoes to peel, and this is feeling homesick, seasick. It really was. It was a new environment, you could say.
And how many days would you be at sea?
The average time was 3 weeks.
And how long would you be at home once you finished that voyage?
Usually just 2 or 3 days.
Trawlers had to stay at sea until they'd caught enough fish to cover the cost of the voyage. They had to cope with the most extreme weather. Gales, fog, freezing temperatures that wrapped the ship in thick ice, threatening to capsize it.
And in the areas that we used to fish, it was a natural phenomenon for ice to form. As the sprays came on board the ship, the temperatures were so low, it formed to ice. The skipper, he would know when to start the crew clearing the ice. So all the windows up here would be iced up. You wouldn't be able to really see out of them.
The skipper relied on his clear view screen to steer the ship to safety.
It's a heated window, and it spins round at 3,000 revolutions, so it's permanently clear. So a skipper would spend hours just looking through here and using his searchlight to see what is ahead of him.
Do you miss the sea, Ken?
I do very much. 22 years coming from the bottom rung in the galley all the way up to reach this stage. I could quite happily say that I would do it all again.
But Hull's trawling days were coming to an end. In the early 1970s, the Icelanders became fiercely protective of their fish stocks. They attacked British trawlers scooping fish from their waters in what became known as the Cod Wars.
The Icelanders' shells had punched holes through the trawler's steel plates, some of them below the waterline, and at one stage she'd settled low in the water.
As a result, quotas were imposed on British trawlers, limiting their catch. Hull's fleet of 127 trawlers was reduced to just 6, and the industry collapsed. These days, Hull's docks are busy again. It's the fastest growing cargo port in Britain, but now it's dealing in Scandinavian timber rather than fish. Before I continue my journey, I'm going to spend the night here, and my Bradshaw's guide has found me a great place to stay. How wonderfully convenient. My hotel is in the station. Have a half fisser, please. In the past, it's provided a bed for some very distinguished clients. This hotel is called the Royal, in honour of the fact that Queen Victoria and Prince Albert stayed here in 1854. I love these classic railway hotels. This one even has the arches of a railway station, perfectly positioned to provide for the weary traveller well-earned rest. I'm now moving on from Hull, up the North Sea coast to Bridlington. Somewhat surprisingly, Bradshaw's describes the coastal erosion. All this coast of the East Riding is in the process of change, the sea gaining on the shores. So back then, the Victorians were already worried about the cliffs crumbling away. But one thing they could never have predicted was that the North Sea could run out of cod. I'm keen to find out from climate expert John Pinniger what the real situation is.
Over the years, there have been many changes. Obviously, Hull isn't the fishing port that it used to be. Some of that's to do with politics, to do with being driven out of Icelandic waters and so on. But can you draw any kind of conclusions about environmental change?
There's a general thought that cod are moving northwards, as with most species, between about 40 kilometres and 400 kilometres over the last 25 years.
Is anything moving from warmer waters into our colder waters?
It's very interesting. We're starting to see a lot more warm water species that we normally associate with the Mediterranean. Things like red mullet, anchovy, and also sea bass. Sea bass have their sort of northern limit to the commercial fishery just in Yorkshire here, although they're caught further north by sport fishermen. There's around 25,000 sport fishermen in the UK that regularly fish for sea bass. And sea bass numbers in the channel have quadrupled over the last 10 years.
So maybe the worry for the British public is not so much that we're not going to have any fish, but that we've got to change our tastes, that we're going to have to move from, say, cod to sea bass.
Absolutely. I mean, in Britain, we're fairly restricted in the fish that we tend to eat. So particularly in the south of England, people prefer cod. But maybe they'll have to get used to eating sea bass and red mullet and more anchovy. And other things like John Dory as well, all of which are very nice to eat, and people eat them further south, but not traditionally here.
Let them eat sea bass, it could be worse.
It could be a lot worse.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for making the journey with me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This must be one of the most beautifully kept, one of the prettiest stations on the network. Hello.
Good afternoon.
I just wanted to say what a beautiful station, what a beautiful buffet this is.
It is. It works very well. It's one of the best kept stations on the line, if not in the country.
I would say possibly in the country. And has it been like this for many years?
It started off approximately 23 years ago by a lady called Madeline Crook, who was the proprietor before me, and she started off with a couple of tubs of flowers, and over the years it's got to what it is now.
And do many people come in and say to you, congratulations, this is really lovely?
A lot of people do, yeah.
Thank you very much. Bradshaw was captivated by Bridlington. He says, this attractive resort lies on the Yorkshire coast, but at that point where the line turns westward from Flamborough Head and then sweeping round to the south forms a capacious bay called Bridlington Bay. In Bradshaw's day, Bridlington was a holiday spot for industrial workers arriving by train from West Yorkshire. It's still a popular destination, whether it's a spot of fishing or after, or an afternoon on the wide sands of the bay. But it's always been a working fishing port too, and just like Hull, its fishermen have had to adapt to changes in the North Sea. Frank, the sea bass man, how are you? Local fisherman Frank Powell now casts his net only in Bridlington waters. I love your transport.
Yes, well, it's all right for the job, yeah. Anyhow, let's be going because the net's drying out and this sun the bass won't be very good, okay. So let's get on, shall we?
He's found a new, more sustainable way to fish, using the tide. His nets stretch from beach to water. When the tide comes in, the fish lodge in the net.
Here we are, Michael.
Then at low tide, Frank moves from net to collect the catch.
And a bass for you. A sea bass.
A lovely fish.
Beautiful.
Well, a beautiful, silvery, fat fish. So you have a net that runs from the sea up the beach.
Yes.
And what about the bit that's still in the sea? What do you do about that?
Well, we have to wade out there, Michael.
Ah, yes, well, you're dressed for it. Are you going out there, then?
I am, and so are you. I've got a pair of waders for you.
OK.
With no hooks and no engines, it's eco-friendly.
Here we are, mate.
And there's little danger of overfishing,
Don't come very
as
far,
only
mate.
small
You'll get
numbers
wet.
are caught at a time.
So you have to pull it all the way out, do you, to sea?
Yeah, you just keep going like this all the time until you come to the end.
Did you find anything out there?
Well, no, that's it. Most of the fish today have been up the beach.
Have you always fished like this, Frank?
No, I've started off on trawlers from Hull, the deep sea ones, when I left school. And when Hull collapsed in '74 for the Cod War, I moved to Bridlington and carried on fishing there.
Well, would you mind if I go ashore and dry my socks?
Certainly not. Go on then, but don't fall over on this neck.
You do this sea bass fishing under some kind of licence certificate?
Yeah, we have a licence for the sea bass, a permit. We're issued with a permit.
You're responsible for maintaining the fish at a sustainable level, are you?
Yes, well, as you can see, it's a very low impact fishery, isn't it? I mean, what have I caught today? 6 or 7 bass. And if I do it twice a day, I mean, you're talking about a premium fish now. It's wild sea bass, and with a marine stewardship, it's got the stamp, we've got tags, we put a gill tag into its gills to say, and that goes on record for when it was caught, the traceability of the fish, and wherever it goes, and it can be traced.
And getting so few fish, can you make a living with this?
Yes, I think if you can do it twice a day, yes.
Let's see the day's catch.
Lay those out and we'll show you what we've caught. Mind the spikes. We are a bass and a mullet. All the same size. That shows the selectivity of a gill net.
It's important to have them the same size?
Definitely. It gets rid of the juveniles. There's no juvenile fish among that lot. Everything what you catch, you keep. There's no waste, which is a big thing, I think, nowadays in fisheries.
Well, Frank, I've really enjoyed it, and now I think the moment has come to remove my welly.
I think we ought to check it for bass, I think.
Maybe it won't be long before sea bass replaces cod as the nation's favourite. With slightly damp feet, I head for the station. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, my Bradshaw's guide has proved very useful. It found me a convenient hotel in Hull and taught me to view that city with new eyes. It didn't persuade me to enjoy licorice. And, given the choice between a Pontefract cake and a Bridlington sea bass, I'm sorry, no contest. On my next journey, I'll be catching up with a very old local in Scarborough. Excuse me, is this the 2,000-year-old man?
No, actually, this one's 4,000 years old. He dates from the early Bronze Age.
I'll be finding out about the fisherman's nits in Filey.
All the patterns have a meaning. The zigzag pattern, you never walk down the cliffs in a straight line.
No.
Then we have the diamond mesh.
The nets.
The nets, the crab pots.
And I'll be bird watching on the wild cliffs of Bempton.
We've got 200,000 breeding seabirds here, which is just amazing. Actually, these gannets are a relatively recent colonist, maybe in the last 30 years or so.
In 1840, one man transformed travel in Britain. His name was George Bradshaw, and his railway guides inspired the Victorians to take to the tracks. Stop by stop, he told them where to travel, what to see, and where to stay. Now, 170 years later, I'm making 4 long journeys across the length and breadth of the country to see what remains of Bradshaw's Britain. I'm on the last leg of my railway journey from Liverpool to Scarborough using this dog-eared Victorian handbook. So far, its pointers have proved remarkably relevant, even to the modern-day traveller. I'm continuing to travel by the sea, so important to our island heritage. And now I'll discover whether Bradshaw's is a good guide not only to Britain's yesterday and today, but also to our prehistory. Today, I'll be catching up with a very old local in Scarborough. Excuse me, is this the 2,000-year-old man?
No, actually, this one's 4,000 years old. He dates from the early Bronze Age.
I'll be finding out about fisherman knits in Filey.
So all the patterns have a meaning. The zigzag pattern, you never walk down the cliffs in a straight line.
No.
Then we have the diamond mesh.
The nets.
The nets, the crab pots.
And I'll be bird watching on the wild cliffs of Bempton.
We've got 200,000 breeding seabirds here, which is just amazing. Actually, these gannets are a relatively recent colonist, maybe in the last 30 years or so.
I've almost completed my journey from Liverpool that took me across the northwest of England. Having crossed the Pennines and visited the historic city of York, and having passed through Humberside, I'm now heading up the northeast coast. Today I'm leaving the seaside town of Bridlington and travelling up the coast to Filey before reaching my final destination, Scarborough. And my first stop is Bempton. This is the nearest station to that spectacular feature of the northeast coast, Flamborough Head. Bradshaw describes its lofty cliffs of nearly 500 feet elevation, teeming in the spring and summer months with thousands of birds of every hue and species. Birdwatching became a popular hobby in the late 19th century, spurred on by the railways, which brought people to the coast to enjoy the magnificent seabird colonies.
Isn't that amazing?
In Bradshaw's day, these high cliffs attracted thousands of puffins and guillemots. These days, it's also home to England's largest mainland colony of gannets, closely monitored by RSPB site manager Ian Kendler.
What a fantastic sight.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
That jagged, broken cliff with the birds lined along it. I'm following this 19th century guidebook, Bradshaw, and he talks about Flamborough Head. He says teeming with birds in spring and summer.
Right, well, they're here spring and summer, but they're here right through to early October. And I mean, these gannets take a long time to rear the young, and so, they're here right through, well, mid-autumn, I guess.
And they're voracious eaters, aren't they? I remember when I was a kid, if I was wolfing my food, I was accused of eating like a gannet.
Yeah, absolutely, that's it. I mean, they are really, really sort of good hunters, really, really good feeders, and they just, they take masses and masses of food, and that's why the colony here is growing from strength to strength every year.
And am I right in thinking that even though you've got this huge number of gannets, they're actually a small minority of your total bird population?
Yeah, we've got 200,000 breeding seabirds here, which is just amazing.
Do you have any problems these days with egg stealers?
No, that was the Victorian era. That was a real big issue during then. The climbers, as they were, used to go over these cliffs harvesting guillemot eggs. I think one year they harvested 30,000 eggs. That was obviously never going to be sustainable, so I think the Seabird Preservation Act started right here, and that stopped that process of just taking all those bird eggs just, without any thought for the welfare of the birds.
I like to think that George Bradshaw would never have been guilty of such a heinous crime.
Sure not, I'm sure not.
The climbers would sell the eggs for souvenirs, but most were stolen to be eaten by local people. Thankfully, the climbers have gone, but the bird watchers remain a firm fixture on the cliffs.
Do you think seabirds are special?
I think they're absolutely wonderful. especially the gannets. The life of the gannet, the life they live, the way they live and the way they are, absolutely fascinates me and always has.
What is it about their lifestyle that fascinates you?
Well, the fact that they mate for life, they have the same nest for life, the way they bring up their young, they're feeding them so much fish, they look after them, and the way they are together. For such a fierce hunting bird, they're so gentle with one another and they're so loving. It's wonderful to see.
They have the same nest, do they?
Yes, the same nest for life. But goodness knows how they do it. I mean, imagine you've been out for the whole of the winter and then you come back to this cliff site and the 3 miles of cliff and you find the one particular little nest that you had last year. Just don't know how they do it. I think it's wonderful.
I do find it hard to put myself in the position of a gannet. I mean, not only how do you find your address again, but how do you spend months clinging to a cliff edge? It's really extraordinary, isn't it?
Nearby Flamborough Head has 2 lighthouses. The Chalk Tower is the oldest surviving lighthouse in England, dating back to 1674. In 1806, it was replaced by another lighthouse that caught Bradshaw's eye. It pioneered a new system for alerting sailors in bad weather.
Bradshaw's mentions this lighthouse at Flamborough Head, rising 400 feet above the sea. It was quite new at the time of Bradshaw's guide, and for the first time they used red glass on the reflector, a colour that could be better seen in the fog, giving this lighthouse a characteristic signature of 2 white flashes followed by a red, a model that was quickly adopted by many other lights.
From the wilds of Flamborough, it's back to the station for the next leg of my journey up the east coast.
My next stop is Filey, and Bradshaw's guide says of it that it's a modern watering place. The guidebook would have been written around the time that fishing villages were becoming fashionable seaside resorts. And I should be interested to see today whether it's more noted for fish or fashion.
What a lovely railway station. Very, very unexpected. Beautiful, substantial Victorian brick walls, lovely roof. It must indeed have been a fashionable watering place. When the railways arrived in 1846, Filey expanded from a small fishing village to an elegant seaside resort. For those in the know, it was a quieter alternative to its noisy neighbour, Scarborough. But fishing was always at its heart. In 1870, there were over 100 working vessels here. Filey fishermen used special cobble boats that are found only in the northeast. Small and sturdy, they could be launched straight from the beach. Jeremy Smith is a fisherman just like his father and uses one of the last remaining cobble boats in Filey.
Hello.
Hello there.
I've never seen a boat like this before. It's got a kind of flat bottom.
Yes, it's got a flat bottom with a tunnel where the propeller is underneath, and we've got a keel on the front. That's for stability.
What's the point of having the flat bottom?
It's just for landing on the wheels when we're pulling up the beach.
Ah, because you've no harbour here.
Because we don't have a harbour here, only a harbour at Scarborough.
And do they go back a long time?
Yes, they go back to the 18th century, these boats. Originated from the Vikings with a clinker build. That means when the planks will overlap and they rivet the planks, stop them from leaking.
And they're used for fishing?
Yes, we use them for fishing, crab potting, netting, long lining, and sometimes taking visitors out trips.
Although the boats are sturdy for their size, fishing on the northeast coast in Bradshaw's time was a hazardous occupation.
I've got a 19th century guidebook and it talks about a lot of disasters in that period.
Yeah, it goes back to about 1850, 1860, when the herring fishing was in action. And they used to travel for miles in these boats and couldn't get their weather forecasts. So there was a lot of drownings in them days.
When other boats were laid up for winter, the cobbles were still out long-line fishing. Before the 1900s, the boats were dependent on sail and oar power, so if the weather turned, the boats were left vulnerable to the rough seas.
This old sea mine serves as a memorial to all the fishermen and mariners of Filey who've lost their lives. And in fact, Bradshaw's guide mentions that there are more women than men in the town because of a catastrophe in 1851. There were several such disasters, and the sea has created many widows in this town.
Historically, the fishermen of East Yorkshire wore thick wool pullovers called guernseys. They were hand-knitted by their wives and heavily patterned with symbols that represented the village they were from. Margaret Taylor married a fisherman, and the knitting of Filey pullovers is part of her heritage.
Margaret, I find you hard at work.
Hello.
I'm Michael.
Pleased to meet you.
What are you working on there?
I'm working on a traditional fisherman's guernsey. Ours are very highly patterned because all the patterns have a meaning. That's the shingle on the beach. If you feel it, it's the nice texture. It's the little pebbles on the beach.
Yes. This is very good, yes.
The zigzag pattern. You never walk down the cliffs in a straight line.
No.
You go in a zigzag pattern. Then we have the diamond mesh, which is...
The nets.
The nets, the crab pots.
GT.
That's my husband's initials, Graham Taylor. And part of the beauty of these in the years ago when people were lost at sea, it was identification. A body washed up, the Guernsey, they would all be wearing Guernseys then, hence the pattern, people knowing where it came from, and also with having the initial in, the body would be returned to the rightful owners.
That's very sad.
It's very sad, but it happened, unfortunately.
The Guernsey is tightly knitted, making it virtually wind and waterproof. In the 19th century, they were rarely washed, and it's said that the build-up of daily grime added a further protective layer.
The knitting goes back in your family?
It does. There's evidence in a book that they were around in the 1800s, but I'm following my family tree and I've gone back to the late 1790s now, and they were wearing Guernseys in those days. So I don't have any photographs, obviously, from that time, but I do have one of my grandma and granddad wearing one of her Filey Guernseys.
Knitting them requires skill and patience. It takes even a proficient knitter at least 100 hours to complete a Filey Guernsey.
Are there many people in Filey knitting sweaters?
You'd have to be very lucky to find a lady, one of the very few, who would knit you one.
And you can't buy them?
You can buy them at Flamborough. They will sell them in a shop up there. You go and order one and say what you want, and then they'll tell you when it's ready, which will be months away.
So, if I want a Filey Guernsey for Christmas, I'd better get my order in quickly. I'm almost at the end of my journey from the west coast to the east of England.
Tickets for Filey, please.
Morning.
Morning.
There we go.
Thank
Thank you very much. Oh, it's already been cleansed. Thank you very much.
Which of the Yorkshire seaside resorts do you most like?
I like Hornsey and Withensea, but you can't get there on the railway anymore, so...
They used to have railways,
They
didn't
used to, yes, but obviously back in the 60s they went, but I still travel there by car when I can.
Luckily for me, the railway still does run to the heart of one of the greatest Victorian holiday hotspots. I've been to Bridlington, I've been to Filey, both very considerable Victorian seaside resorts. But now I'm on my way to the mother and father of Yorkshire holiday destinations. I refer to the one and only, the inimitable Scarborough.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now approaching Scarborough, where this service will terminate. All passengers leaving the train, please remember to take with you all luggage and any personal belongings. Scarborough the next and terminating station. On behalf of Norman, I'd like to thank you for travelling with us on this part of your journey.
I've come through beautiful green countryside and I picked my way through the silhouetted spires of Scarborough, and now I'm at the railway station. I have a thing about railway clocks. Scarborough Station has the most wonderful, jaunty, elegant, ecstatic clock tower. A clock is an adornment to any station. But in 1884, when this was added, it was crucial, as few people owned a watch. In the 17th century, Scarborough Spa and its iron-rich waters attracted the gentry, and its life as a resort began. But it was the railways that put Scarborough on the map as a major holiday destination for the masses. Bradshaw writes, "There are 33 miles of coast which may be inspected at low water over a course of the finest sands in England." My Bradshaw's guide tells me that this beach became so popular that in 1861 they had to ban nude bathing here. After that, the sands were used for the Scarborough horse races, and the crowds used to gather on that bridge. And Bradshaw's guide tells me that that bridge was the best grandstand in the world. But now the sands have changed from turf to surf. In the mid-19th century, the spa town became known as a centre of entertainment. Every summer, the cotton mills across the northwest closed for a holiday called Wakes Week, and the workers headed to the coast, many of them ending up at Scarborough. They came for the many attractions which Bradshaw described in detail: the Iron Bridge, the 12th century castle, and of course cliff-top walks with panoramic views. And something else. In Scarborough, Bradshaw's guide recommends the Rotunda Museum, especially the skeleton of an ancient Briton and his oak tree coffin, supposed to be 2,000 years old, which will be found particularly attractive. The teeth are all perfect. So, I'm looking for a man 20 centuries old, particularly attractive, with a great smile. The skeleton, called Gristhorpe Man, was discovered in a tree trunk. In 2005, it was taken away for testing by field archaeologists Dr. Nigel Melton and Janet Montgomery. Today, it's back on display in the Rotunda. Excuse me, is this the 2,000-year-old man?
No, actually, this one's 4,000 years old. He dates from the early Bronze Age.
I think he must be the one I'm looking for. I've got a Victorian guidebook that says he's 2,000 years old.
Then this is probably the one you're looking for. It's just that now we have much more advanced scientific techniques. We can use radiocarbon dating, which they didn't have access to in the 19th century.
And how unusual is this intact skeleton?
It's very unusual. Up until Gristhope Man was found in 1834, they'd found log coffins, but with no evidence of a body at all. They thought they were repositories for people's possessions. And then we found Gristhope Man. There was a full, complete skeleton in there, but since then, there's been no more. So he's unique.
So do people flock in to see him?
Well, they used to. When he was found in 1834, he was a national sensation, but he sort of slipped off the radar a bit, maybe because he's tucked away in the north of England, but we're hoping that all the new sort of forensic-style investigations we've been able to do on him now will bring him back to prominence.
It says in here that he has a full set of teeth, which indeed he does, which is very remarkable, isn't it? I mean, I would have thought his teeth would have fallen out in those days.
Well, actually, they didn't tend to, because they didn't have as much access to sugars that we have, so they didn't get as much tooth decay. They tend to get very worn because their diet is usually a lot harsher.
And I know he's 4,000 years old, but how old was he when he died?
Well, it's very difficult to tell from a skeleton, but we think he was probably 60 plus when he died.
Really? Yeah. That's a pretty good age for those days, isn't it?
It's a very good age for those days, yes.
And he's big, isn't he?
Yes, he's about 6 foot, 6'2", which is very tall for the Bronze Age.
What would he have looked like?
Well, not only was he tall, but he was also an extremely powerfully built man. Something like a modern professional athlete in terms of his muscles and his body mass.
Now, what did he die of?
Well, it's terribly difficult to say when you've only got a skeleton left, unless there's something obvious, like someone's hit him over the head with an axe or something. We've actually CT scanned him so that we can take him apart digitally. And one of the things that turned up on there was on the left side of his skull, there's a large benign brain tumour that's left the skull only paper thin in places.
As ever more visitors arrived, Scarborough quickly ran out of hotel space. So in 1863, work began on the Grand, one of the first and largest purpose-built hotels in Europe. Very grand, very opulent. Paul Hallam's worked here for 15 years and knows it inside out. Paul.
Hello, Michael.
It is magnificent. A hotel on this scale needed the railways.
It certainly did, yes. It was the railway that actually brought all the people into the town, especially on Sundays and weekends and bank holidays.
Give me its vital statistics.
OK, when it was first designed by Cuthbert Broderick, he built it around the calendar. So we have the 4 turrets at the top of the buildings for the seasons. We have 12 floors for the months of the year, 365 bedrooms and 52 chimneys.
Ah, very, very neat. And I suppose in these old-fashioned hotels, the bedrooms are all different.
Yeah, we haven't got 2 bedrooms that are the same shape or the same size, mainly to do with the fact that the building is built in the shape of a V to commemorate Queen Victoria.
Ah, wonderfully patriotic and royalist.
Yes.
It's a magnificent stair.
Yes, as you can see, Michael, quite a wide staircase, due to the fact so that 2 ladies in crinoline dresses could pass each other.
Ah, that immediately evokes the whole era, doesn't it?
It does indeed, yes.
Swishing from the ballroom down these lovely stairs.
That's correct.
In its heyday, the hotel attracted a wealthy clientele that came for its grand evening balls and splendid South Bay views. Oh, yes, that is magnificent. Isn't it on the grand scale?
It's superb, Michael.
No, I love it. With its great D windows and beautiful views. Can we get out there?
We certainly can. I'll just take you across and we'll go out onto the balcony.
Excellent. Because the prospect is one of the great advantages of the hotel, isn't it?
Yes.
Ha! What a majestic panorama, isn't it?
Yeah, it's superb, isn't it, Michael? This is what people come to Scarborough to see.
I mean, your hotel, is it built in such a dominant position, it's sort of comparable to the castle
It is indeed. It doesn't matter where you stand on any cliff top or wherever in Scarborough, you will more often than not see the Grand Hotel.
And it's built sheer, like an artificial cliff in a way, isn't it?
It is right the way down, actually, to the sea line level at the bottom there.
And I suppose, being like a cliff, you also offer hospitality to quite a lot of seagulls.
We do get quite a few, Michael, at the seagull season, shall we say.
But only the most discerning seagulls, I think.
Of course.
Hello, Michael. I hope you don't mind, but is that a Scarborough tan you're sporting?
Of course. I've been here 6 hours. It's been more or less sunny. Have you come to stay, or do you live here?
My wife and I met each other at Scarborough 45 years ago.
Did you?
So we're here a bit of reminiscing, hope to carve our initials in a few park benches and things like that.
How very romantic. Where did you meet? Here at the Grand Hotel?
At the spa.
At the spa?
Yeah, so dancing at the spa. So.
And have you been back over the years?
Oh yes, yeah, This is a favourite haunt, but we're getting that bit older now, you know, but we still like coming to Scarborough.
Oh, well, I wish you a very happy 45th anniversary.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your stay.
Scarborough's just the place to celebrate.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Clearly, romance isn't dead in this great British seaside resort. On this journey, it's been enriching to explore the country through Bradshaw's eyes and see how much Victorian achievements have shaped the Britain that we know today. Where would I have been this last week without my Bradshaw's handbook? It's taught me more about my country than any modern guide. From Liverpool to Scarborough, I've seen the transformative impact that railways had on the history of our country. Bradshaw's has led me from west to east, from coast to coast. And this is Journey's End. My next journey takes me from Preston all the way to Scotland. I'll be getting the thrill of a lifetime. This is a fantastic sight as the steam engine begins to go over the Ribblehead Viaduct. You'll never see another sight like this on a railway in Britain. I'll be realising a lifelong ambition. It gives you an idea of the scale, the complexity, the height, and actually the beauty. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And I'll be enjoying a music hall revival. Are you ready to give your performance?
I think we should get in there, and we've got an audience as well. Adlington or Darlington, Torrington or Warrington, sure that she would find it in the Bradshaw sky.
In 1840, one man transformed travel in Britain. His name was George Bradshaw, and his railway guides inspired the Victorians to take to the tracks. Stop by stop, he told them where to travel, what to see, and where to stay. Now, 170 years later, I'm making 4 long journeys across the length and breadth of the country to see what remains of Bradshaw's Britain. A 150 years ago, George Bradshaw produced the must-have railway maps, timetables and guidebooks. Now, using one of those ancient guides, I'm making 4 long journeys across our country to view Britain through the proud and prudish eyes of the Victorians and to learn how much they made us what we are today, but also to appreciate how much we've changed since. Today I'll be heading to the treacherous quicksands of Morecambe Bay.
Even on the dangerous quicksands, you won't go down. You can lie flat and roll out of it.
I'll be making a sobering visit to Preston.
It means there's 12% alcohol, which is deadly poison. If you injected it into your cat, it'd drop dead.
I'd never thought of doing that.
No, you wouldn't.
And I'll be taking in a music hall revival in Blackpool. Are you ready to give your performance?
I think we should get in there, and we've got an audience as well. Bridlington or Darlington, Torrington or Warrington, sure that she would find it in the Bradshaw's Guide.
This week, starting in Preston, I travel along the first rail link between Scotland and England. Heading inland, I'll take the beautiful Settle to Carlisle line before visiting the Lake District. Then, following my Bradshaw guide, I'll end up at my mother's hometown of Kirkcaldy. Today, I'm covering the first 60 miles up the west coast to Blackpool and then Morecambe Bay.
Gentlemen, your next station will be Preston. Next station, future Preston for Lancaster and stations for the north.
My first stop is one of the North's busiest railway stations, Preston. The size of the station of Preston reminds us that this was a huge industrial town, but even today it is the hub of railways spreading out throughout Lancashire. In Bradshaw's day, there weren't buffet cars on trains. Instead, you could get tea or food on the platform at large stations. In 1914, Preston's refreshment rooms took on a truly strategic role. Hello. Can you tell me about the history of the buffet here?
Well, the buffet's been here for, well, as long as the railway station, but I think the history you're on about is the Great War of 1418, where the WVRS provided on a 24-hour-a-day basis refreshment for the troops moving up, moving back, and this carried on until 1919 with the demobilisation of the troops. They carried that service on right through, and it never closed. It was provided 24 hours a day for almost 5 years.
How many cups of tea got served here during World War I?
Well, I'm led to believe it's about 3.25 million, which is an awful lot of hot water.
Today, Preston is the centre of Britain's high-tech military aircraft industry. But in the mid-19th century, it had a rather different reputation for hard boozing and industrial unrest. Bradshaw's guide says of Preston, it's become one of the principal manufacturing towns of the country. There are upwards of 50 cotton mills in the town. The commercial annals of this town are memorable for 2 long, continued disputes between employers and employed. Preston was a place where the early problems of the Industrial Revolution emerged, and a place where those problems were first tackled. Working life was pretty grim. So perhaps it's no surprise that some workers turned to alcohol. But in 1832, Joseph Livesey founded the first British temperance movement here, based on his belief that alcohol was the root of most social ills. The temperance movement still exists, and Anne Hindley is a member. So why did Joseph Livesey found the temperance movement?
Well, he saw the trouble there was with drink round his community and in Preston itself.
The temperance movement even made films to warn workers of the dangers of alcohol. People who believe in temperance make a pledge, don't they? What is that pledge?
The pledge is that they will not drink again in their lives. Total abstinence, no moderation, total abstinence for the rest of their lives, like I did. I signed the pledge.
Have you ever had a drink yourself, Anne?
Yes, I have. A long, long, long time ago. People don't think of drink as a drug. It is a drug, and it's at top of the list. It's absolutely poisonous to the human body. When you see volume, whatever it is, 12, it means there's 12% alcohol, which is deadly poison. If you injected it into your cat, it'd drop dead.
I'd never thought of doing that.
No, you wouldn't.
So how did the temperance movement develop? Did it become a very big thing?
Joseph was a preacher. He preached temperance, and he told everybody about it. People came from all over the world to see him.
Cheap train travel allowed tens of thousands of people to journey to temperance rallies to hear Joseph Livesey speak. By the 1900s, it was estimated that 1 in 10 people was teetotal. Temperance peaked during World War I, when new licensing laws reduced pub opening times. But Britain stopped short of the prohibition practiced by the Americans.
Do you feel that you're in tune with your Victorian predecessors?
I certainly do. That's why I do this. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do, to have the knowledge to do it. And I've spent my life really doing it.
The railways not only brought people to the rallies in Preston, but also took workers on day trips and summer holidays to the newly accessible seaside resorts.
This is the Blackpool Bell, the passion wagon, a train on which romances were made.
The next part of my journey takes me 20 miles away to the coast.
There is Blackpool Tower. We're still 2 stops away from Blackpool, but at 158 metres, about 500 feet, you can see it from miles and miles away.
The Blackpool Bell carried young men and women from nearby towns to the bright lights of Blackpool. And 2 of them have agreed to meet me somewhere on this train.
You're Norma and Norman, aren't you? Yes. I'm Michael. Hello. So I understand you 2 met on the train.
We did. Where we come from originally, Radcliffe near Manchester, during the illuminations they ran the Blackpool Bell, otherwise known as the Passion Train.
So what was going on there?
Well, it was kissing and cuddling.
Kissing and cuddling?
Yes.
Nothing else.
Strictly that.
Oh, yes. I mean, there wasn't corridor trains in those days. There were the single carriages. So once we'd left Blackpool, was well clear of Blackpool station, the bulb came out, went on the luggage rack, and it was never broke. When we got near Chorley, you'd see the train light up all the way along there. The bulbs was put back in.
Because we're talking about the 1950s here?
Yes, yes.
You've been married how long?
On Friday we will have been married 55 years.
Blackpool was so popular that the railways ran special services every weekend, running into the early hours of the morning.
So what did you think of Norma when you first saw her?
Well, she was all right, yeah. I couldn't really see her proper. We stopped at Black Lane Station. You know, the banking of a railway like that. There were steps, you see, to get off the station. So, and I run up the steps with her.
Tell how drunk he was.
What, on the first date?
Yes.
On the first meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
You picked her up and ran up the stairs?
Yeah. And then I took her home and that was it.
You walked her home like a gentleman?
Oh, yeah. Oh, aye.
So the whole point was to meet girls?
In a way, yeah. It was. It was.
Without the Blackpool Bell, many a local romance would never have started. And where better to go than the splendid Tower Ballroom to dance the night away? Barry McQueen knows everything there is to know about Blackpool.
Welcome to Blackpool.
It's lovely to be here. What do you do when you're not dressed like that?
Well, at the moment, this is my Mr. Bickerstaff uniform. This is mine for my tours of the tower. But when I'm not dressed like this, I'm the official town crier of Blackpool. Oh, yay, oh, yay. There's a famous seaside place called Blackpool, noted for fresh air and fun. We've got a tower, 3 piers and a pleasure beach. And I guarantee we've always got plenty of sun.
Bradshaw describes Blackpool as a pretty bathing place on the Irish Sea, much frequented by visitors. In 1863, a new pier was opened, which forms a most pleasant promenade. Blackpool was just starting life as a seaside resort in Bradshaw's time. Then the railways arrived, bringing thousands of holidaymakers every summer. Within a few years, theatres, the Winter Gardens, and 3 piers were built. And in 1879, almost 100,000 people came to see the first illuminations, known as artificial sunlight. Bradshaw's name may not be recognised now, but his railway timetable was a household name, and the Victorians wrote comic songs about him. You are doing today a very special performance for me.
Certainly am today. I'm going to be singing a song with our wonderful organist here at the Tower, Phil Kelso. We're going to be doing a song called The Bradshaw Guide. Yeah. It's an old music hall song. The Bradshaw, quite a catchy tune, actually.
Are you ready to give your performance?
I think we should get in there, and we've got an audience as well, so I think we'll get in there.
Thank you. Let's go.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. And stay dancing. Here's the next one for you this afternoon, the Boston England.
Michael, a warm welcome to the world-famous Blackpool Tower Ballroom.
Thank you very
warm
much,
welcome.
and good luck to you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Fantastic space with this brilliantly painted ceiling and its lanterns and its gold and its composers' names around the outside.
Very good afternoon to all ladies and gentlemen.
Let's take a seat.
This afternoon, Phil and myself, we're going to do a song about a railway timetable called The Bradshaw Guide. I had to take a journey a little while ago, somewhere down the Midland, the counties you must know. A charming little creature was seated by my side, and after she could follow me Bradshaw Guide. The lady was in trouble with absence of mind. She could not recollect a journey for the ride.
It seems crazy to us today to write a hit song about the railways, but Bradshaw's new guidebooks had captured the imagination of the Victorians.
Sandringham, Ulverston, or Warrington, Alderstone and Dorchester and Rochester and Ryde, Adlington and Darlington, Wallington and Torrington, sure that she would find it in the Bradshaw's Guide.
Now, one thing I won't find in my Bradshaw's Guide is the Blackpool Tower itself. That opened in 1894, a smaller replica of the Eiffel Tower. For sixpence, you could travel over 500 feet up to enjoy the view from the top. It may cost a little more today, but that doesn't stop around 500,000 people trying it out every year. Have you been up the tower before?
Oh, yes. Years ago.
Years ago?
A lot of years ago.
What do you remember of it?
Just this, and being very windy at the top.
Yeah, I think it's going to be windy today, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Get a lovely view, though.
Beautiful.
Just as you remembered it?
Yeah, yeah. Better, actually, now.
Why?
I don't know, you seem to appreciate it more. You know, when you're little, you're just excited about going up, aren't you? And you don't bother, really.
Were you very little when you went up?
About 10.
When it was opened, visitors had to use ladders to reach the top. Thankfully today, the steps are a little steadier.
There's no netting or anything like that. There's waist height railings all around the edges.
I'll try to resist the temptation.
Please don't. Oh no, please do. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't. Sorry. Please don't do.
You must be one of my voters.
Yes.
Up and up and whoa! You really need a head for heights here. It's very windy and it's quite a low rail, but it's a great view. And Blackpool, like so many seaside resorts, has that nostalgic feel to it. But the people I've met here have been really warm-hearted. And this town gives to its many faithful visitors a really engaging welcome. But for me, Blackpool signifies the autumn trek north to attend the political rally of the year. This hotel is full of memories for me. I must have been here for a dozen Conservative Party conferences, and this place was always teeming with people and television crews and journalists. And I remember on that staircase, the Prime Minister with her entourage would sweep through and all the flashbulbs would be going off. Michael Portillo, checking in, please.
Thank you. There's just a signature there and there for you.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be back.
Lovely. Have you stayed with us before?
Oh, yeah. We've got this place rigged out like a political museum. Could I have a glass of red wine, please? Of course, in the bar is where all the chicanery went on. This is where all the politicians would be talking to the journalists. You know, whenever you read in the newspaper, you know, sources close to the Foreign Secretary say, what they mean is the Foreign Secretary told us over a drink.
That's it.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Your good health, and to the memory of all those politicians who've drunk in this bar. I've spent many nights in this hotel in Blackpool, but this is the first time I've enjoyed the best room in the building, the Royal Suite. Now, Margaret Thatcher never spent the night here, but Tony Blair as Prime Minister did, and David Cameron's been here too. So, I suppose that's the nearest I'm going to get to knowing what it feels like to be Prime Minister, or for that matter, Leader of the Opposition. Before I continue on my journey, there's just one more thing to do. I can't come to Blackpool without meeting one of its comedians. Joey, I recognise you. I saw your name in lights. Hello, Michael. Joey Blower has performed in Blackpool countless times over the last 16 years, although his connections to the town go back even further. You did come as a kid, though.
Oh, definitely came as a child. I think everybody came to Blackpool as a child. It was the place to come. Even though Spain, when I was a child, was very popular, there's nowhere like Blackpool.
And you used to go and see the comedy shows?
We went to see every show. I mean, crikey, when I was a child, there was theatres on every pier. North Pier Theatre, South Pier Theatre. There was shows in every hotel, in every bar. There was people came to Blackpool for a week's holiday and couldn't take in all the shows. They'd have to do some matinee shows.
Big audiences?
Oh, big audiences. They'd sell out. 3,500 people in the Opera House. It was absolutely phenomenal.
Don't tell me you're not getting 3,500 in your audience.
No, we probably get about 5,500 in to see my show, but that's the only successful show that I've ever done when we've had 5,500 people in. 1,000, did you say? Sorry.
I understand they're going to be commemorating the great catchphrases here in Blackpool.
Yeah, if you just see the building works just over there, Michael, that's where they're doing what they're calling a comedy carpet.
The carpet will be an area of stone paving the size of a football pitch. It'll be engraved with catchphrases from the world's comedians, spanning generations.
There'll be Nicky Nacky Noo, probably. That'll be over 2 slabs, I'm sure. And there's going to be catchphrases there from Arthur Askey, such as Hello Playmates. And there'll be Peter Kay, garlic bread, I'm sure. And the beauty of that is the different generations that come back now.
Yeah.
My granddad wouldn't know what probably garlic bread meant. He'd think that was just some sort of menu that had been put in the carpet. So I would have to explain to him what Peter Kay's comedy was all about. He would then hopefully become a fan of Peter Kay. He would then explain to me what Hello Playmates was all about. I would then start to watch some of the Arthur Askey stuff. And I think it could be a bonding thing for all the generations of families to get to know what comedy was like then and what it's like now, because comedy's evolved massively.
Can I do you now, sir?
We're not at this pace, no.
So that's it in Blackpool. My journey now continues up the coast along another branch line to Morecambe Bay. I'm on a really spectacular bit of railway track now as we cross a bridge over an inlet of Morecambe Bay. And my Bradshaw's guide says Morecambe Bay is a fine sheet of water, 8 or 10 miles wide when the tide is up. But at low tide, its quicksands are extremely treacherous and must on no account be crossed without the guide who's paid by the government. Amazingly, 160 years later, there's still an official government guide who lives near this remote station, Kent's Bank. Thank you. There can't be many railway stations with a view like this. over the grass and the sheep meadow towards the bay. Fabulous, fabulous view. And I love this too. I'm actually allowed to walk across the railway line. Stop, look, listen. Use your common sense. No health and safety overkill here. Morecambe Bay is the largest expanse of tidal mudflats in Britain. With its rapid tides and shifting sands, it's every bit as treacherous now as it was in Bradshaw's day. The job of guide is a job for life. Cedric Robinson is the current office holder. Cedric.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm very pleased to meet you.
Do I have the honour of addressing the Queen's Guide to the Sands?
That's a lovely title, isn't it? Eh?
Yeah, isn't that fantastic? How old is that title then?
Well, it goes back to the early 1500s, actually, before the Queen.
What are your duties to the public? You're bound to offer guidance to anyone wanting to walk on the sands, are you?
Yes. Before that time, many lives were being lost on these sands. It's a lot of responsibility, but I'm very laid back, and I don't look at it as a responsibility. I've been on the sands all my life. We've lived in this house 47 years. This belongs to Queen, this property.
Now, was it the pay that attracted you?
Oh, by God, my, yeah.
What do you pay?
Well, I'm paid £15 annually, right? £15 per year, and I'm given the cheque and a big smile.
And you get the cottage?
And we get the cottage, yes. Yeah. Mind you, they do say when they give me the £15, rent deducted, so I never know how much rent I pay.
What's it safe for us to see today?
Safe for us to see? Well, it's safe. As long as you're with me, it's safe, right? If you went out there on your own, I could wave bye-bye to you.
The bay spans almost 200 square miles, and Cedric conducts tours across the sands for walkers about once a fortnight, sometimes taking over 100 people. It's very impressive countryside and dramatic vista, this, isn't it, Cedric?
It's a lovely area. I mean, I don't think there's anywhere else as nice as Morecambe Bay, but it has its dangers.
So what really is the nature of the danger here?
Firstly, there's the speed of the incoming tide. You could never outrun it, and the tide never tires. And secondly, there's the dangerous quicksands. And we're approaching now a dike, which only a few weeks ago I brought hundreds of walkers across safely. And now, when we approach it now, look at it, you wouldn't dare even set foot anywhere near it. It's all quicksands.
If you were in a quicksand, I mean, would it really suck you in?
Well, the danger is with people, they tend to stop when the sand gets off. They tend to stop. Now, that's the worst thing you can do. You must always keep moving. And the other thing with quicksands is if you lie on it, even on the dangerous quicksands, you won't go down. You can lie flat and roll out of it. Where if you just stood there like a fool, you would go down like a stone.
Like a stone?
Yes. I've seen 2 horses go down in quicksands in my lifetime. They didn't disappear altogether. And luckily, when the tide came, it covered them, and the buoyancy of them struggling, floating, brought them out to the surface. I've seen tractors go down, and they're still down.
Cedric, a lot of people, I'm afraid, will associate Morecambe Bay with the tragedy of those Chinese cockle pickers a few years ago. What happened there?
These Chinese cockle pickers had gone out when they should have been coming back in. It was quite high tides, a really cold night, and I mean, there'd been a lot of cockle pickers on that area that day, and they'd come home. But seemingly these cockle pickers were almost forced to go out, and they couldn't. I don't think they could speak much English, and they didn't know the state of the tides.
And so they were just cut off by the water, were they?
Wherever the river is, that's the lowest part of the bay. The tide comes up there first. That was behind them. There was a wind blowing. They wouldn't even know the tide was coming in. They were just working there until it just came, and they'd be on like an island. It would just close in on them. Very, very sad.
That's terrible, isn't it? Terrible.
That is all quicksands.
So if I set foot in there, I'd disappear, would I?
You wouldn't come out again. That is so dangerous. Changes are so frequent.
I think I'll stick by your side, Cedric.
Well, one thing is certain, you may keep on my side, but we're not going down in that area.
In the 19th century, Morecambe Bay was a remote area of small shell fishing villages. But the trains made it more accessible, and very soon fresh cockles, prawns, shrimps and lobsters were all on their way to the fish market in Manchester. People still brave the sands to gather shellfish from Morecambe Bay, but in smaller quantities. Luckily, some of the local catch is still on the menus today. So here we are, Morecambe Bay potted shrimp. Warm, buttery, spicy. Perfect for coming off the sands and that cold, cold wind. Delicious. The remote communities of the northwest coast of England were virtually impenetrable before the railways came. And then they took holiday makers and fun, laughter and prosperity to a town like Blackpool. But for rural communities dependent on the produce from the land or the sea, the railways provided that vital lifeline, the thing that's enabled them to survive. On my next journey, I'll be exploring the historic Settle to Carlisle line. I'll find out what's happened to it since I convinced Margaret Thatcher to save it. You know, of all the things I did, it's the one that I can still point out and say, look, that made this difference. I'll discover how building the route claimed so many lives.
Of all the chapels along the line, this, sadly, has got the most number of deaths.
And I'll be getting the thrill of a lifetime.
This is a fantastic sight as the steam engine begins to go over the Ribblehead Viaduct. You'll never see another sight like this on a railway in Britain.